The rain hammered down on the rusted metal roof of the warehouse district, creating a symphony of metallic pings that echoed through the empty streets of Station Terminus 7. Marcus Chen stood in the doorway of his modest repair shop, a steaming cup of synthetic coffee in his weathered hands, watching the downpour with the patience of a man who had learned to wait out far worse storms. He was 73 standard years old, though his body carried the wear of twice that. Decades of military service in the Terran Defense Corps had left their mark on every joint, every scar, and every gray hair on his head. His left arm was entirely cybernetic below the elbow, a souvenir from the Keltar incursion. His right leg ached when the station's artificial gravity fluctuated, but his eyes remained sharp, still carrying that watchful quality that never quite left a soldier, even decades after retirement. The shop was his sanctuary now, filled with machinery, spare parts, and the comfortable clutter of a life built on fixing broken things. He specialized in power systems and navigation equipment, working alone most days, which suited him just fine. The noise of customers and the demands of society had lost their appeal somewhere around his 50th birthday. A crash from the alley behind his shop shattered the peaceful monotony of the rain. Marcus set down his cup with deliberate care, his military instincts flaring to life despite the years. He moved to the back door, grabbing a plasma torch from his workbench. It wasn't much of a weapon, but he'd learned long ago that improvisation often beat preparation. The door slid open with a hiss, revealing the narrow alley bathed in the sickly yellow glow of overhead lights. At first, he saw nothing but overturned trash containers and scattered debris. Then movement caught his eye. Something small and fast darted behind a metal dumpster, and he heard a sound that made him freeze. It was a whimper, high-pitched and distinctly not human, followed by a low, rumbling growl that set off alarm bells in his memory. Marcus had encountered many species during his military career. The galaxy was vast and diverse, filled with beings both wondrous and terrifying. But he recognized that particular combination of sounds immediately. It belonged to a Dracovian, what humans colloquially called Dragonlings, due to their reptilian features and impressive wingspan. He approached slowly, keeping the plasma torch lowered but ready. The Dracovians were a proud warrior race, their empire spanning dozens of systems. They were also fiercely protective of their young, which made finding one alone in this rundown section of the station deeply troubling. "I know you're there," Marcus said in Galactic Common, his voice carrying the calm authority of someone accustomed to dangerous situations. "I'm not going to hurt you." The growling intensified, and a small head poked out from behind the dumpster. Even in the dim light, Marcus could see the distinctive features. Scales that shimmered between deep blue and purple, large golden eyes with vertical pupils, and small horns just beginning to emerge from the skull. The creature couldn't have been more than 8 or 9 in human years equivalent. What struck him immediately was the condition. The Dragonling's scales were dull and scratched, one wing hung at an odd angle, and there was a nasty gash along its left shoulder that oozed dark blood. This wasn't a young warrior on some coming-of-age journey. This was a child, hurt and terrified. "Easy now," Marcus said, lowering himself to one knee despite the protest from his old joints. He set the plasma torch on the ground and pushed it away, showing his empty hands. "My name is Marcus. This is my shop. Are you hurt?" The Dragonling bared its teeth, rows of small but sharp fangs designed for tearing meat. Its tail, which should have been held high in the proud manner of its species, dragged in the wet alley floor. Marcus noticed the trembling in the creature's limbs, the way its breath came in short, panicked gasps. He'd seen that look before. In soldiers fresh from combat, in refugees fleeing war zones, in anyone who had been pushed beyond their limits. This wasn't aggression. This was fear masquerading as bravado. "Listen to me," Marcus continued, keeping his voice steady. I served with Dracovians during the Keltar War. Finest warriors I ever knew. One of them, Commander Threxus, saved my life during the Battle of Crimson Deep. I know your people value honor and strength, but right now, you're bleeding in an alley during a rainstorm. That's not honorable. That's just stupid. The directness seemed to cut through the creature's panic. The golden eyes focused on him with sudden intensity, and Marcus could see intelligence working behind them. Good. Fear could be overcome, but stupidity was often terminal. If you were going to attack me, you would have done it by now, Marcus observed. And if I wanted to hurt you, I wouldn't have bothered talking. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to let me take you inside where it's warm and dry, and I'm going to patch up that shoulder. Then we're going to figure out why a Dracovian youngster is alone on a human station, bleeding in my alley. Understood? For a long moment, the Dragonling didn't move. Then slowly it emerged from behind the dumpster. Marcus could see it fully now. The creature was small, maybe 4 feet tall when standing upright, with a lean build that would one day fill out with muscle and power. Right now, it just looked fragile and young. The Dragonling took 3 halting steps forward, then collapsed. Marcus moved quickly, catching the small body before it hit the ground. Up close, he could feel the heat radiating from the scales, far too hot even for a Dracovian. Fever, then, on top of the injuries. He lifted the creature with a grunt, feeling every one of his years, and carried it inside. The Dragonling's breathing was shallow, and occasionally a small puff of smoke escaped its nostrils, an involuntary response to distress. Marcus laid it on his work table after hastily clearing away the scattered tools and parts. His medical supplies were limited, mostly designed for human injuries, but he kept a universal trauma kit for emergencies. As he worked, cleaning the wound and applying synthetic tissue sealant, he talked, partly to keep the creature calm, partly out of old habit. Your people have a saying, Marcus murmured as he worked. The broken blade can be reforged stronger. I heard it from Commander Threxus after I lost my arm. Thought it was just warrior philosophy at the time, but he explained it meant more than that. It meant that damage doesn't define you. How you heal does. The Dragonling's eyes fluttered open, focusing on him with surprising clarity. Up close, Marcus could see the distinctly purple tint to the scales, which marked this one as likely from the Astral clan, known for their strategic thinking rather than brute force. Uncommon to find them this far from home. There, Marcus said, finishing the last seal on the shoulder wound. That'll hold, but you need proper medical attention. Which means I need to contact the Dracovian embassy, let them know you're here. The reaction was immediate and violent. The Dragonling surged upright, eyes wide with panic. And its good wings spread defensively. A jet of flame, small but intense, shot from its mouth, scorching the ceiling. Marcus stepped back, hands raised. Okay, he said quickly. No embassy. Message received. The Dragonling settled back down, but its entire body remained tense. Marcus studied the creature thoughtfully. A young Dracovian, alone, injured and terrified of going home. The picture it painted wasn't pleasant. He'd seen enough in his years to know that not every species treated their young with care, and the Dracovians, for all their honor and warrior culture, could be brutal with those who didn't meet expectations. If this youngster had fled, there was probably a good reason. Fine, Marcus said, pulling up a stool and sitting down with a heavy sigh. But you can't stay in my shop indefinitely without anyone knowing. This station has security, and a Dracovian child wandering around alone will attract attention. So we need rules. The Dragonling watched him warily, but didn't object. Rule 1. Marcus held up a finger. No burning my shop down. I don't care how scared or angry you get. You control that fire or you find somewhere else to hide. Clear? A hesitant nod. Rule 2. You eat, you sleep, and you let that shoulder heal. I don't know what happened to you, but you're no good to anyone if you're half dead from infection or starvation. Another nod, though this one came with a slight narrowing of the eyes. Marcus recognized that look. It was the expression of someone who wasn't used to being told what to do, but was too exhausted to argue. Rule 3, and this is the important one. Marcus leaned forward, making sure he had the creature's full attention. You don't lie to me. I've been lied to by the best, and I'm too old to tolerate it. If you're going to stay here even temporarily, I need to know what I'm dealing with. You don't have to tell me everything right now, but when you're ready, you tell me the truth. Understood? The Dragonling held his gaze for a long moment, then spoke for the first time. Its voice was rough, probably from disuse or injury, but the galactic common was clear. Understood. Good. Marcus stood, his knee popping loudly in protest. Now I'm going to get you some water and see what I can scrounge up for food. Dracovians are omnivores, right? Prefer meat but can handle vegetation? Yes. Perfect. Stay on that table and try not to bleed on anything important. As Marcus moved to his small living quarters attached to the shop, he couldn't shake the feeling that he'd just made a decision that would complicate his comfortable, quiet life considerably. He'd spent the last 20 years avoiding exactly this kind of entanglement. No family, no close friends, no responsibilities beyond his business. Yet when he looked back at the small figure on his work table, scales dulled by pain and exhaustion, he couldn't bring himself to regret it. He'd walked past too many people who needed help during his life, justified by duty or orders or simple survival. Now, in what might be his final years, maybe it was time to stop walking past. He returned with water in a clean container and a plate of dried meat strips he'd been saving. The Dragonling drank first, desperately, then tore into the meat with savage efficiency. Marcus watched, making mental notes. The creature's table manners were non-existent, but the methodical way it ate spoke of training. Someone had taught this youngster something about efficiency and survival. You got a name? Marcus asked as the Dragonling finished eating. The creature paused, licking its fingers clean with a long, forked tongue. Zix. Zix, Marcus repeated, making sure he had the pronunciation right. The name was sharp, almost hissing. All right, Zix, I'm going to be straight with you. I don't know what you're running from, and maybe you have good reasons for running. But you're hurt, you're young, and this station isn't safe for someone in your condition. So here's the deal. You rest tonight, heal up that shoulder, and tomorrow we figure out what comes next. Maybe that's finding you safe passage somewhere, maybe it's something else. But we do it smart, not panicked. Agreed? Zix studied him with those unsettling golden eyes, and Marcus had the distinct impression he was being evaluated. Finally, the Dragonling spoke again. Why help me? Humans and Dracovians are not allies. We compete for the same systems, the same resources. Marcus smiled, though it was a tired expression. Kid, I'm 73 years old. I stopped caring about politics and territory disputes around the time my hair went gray. You know what I care about now? Fixing what's broken. Whether that's a navigation computer or a scared youngster bleeding in my alley. Besides, he added, moving toward his sleeping quarters, Commander Threxus saved my life once. Figure helping one of his people is a small way to repay that debt. He paused at the doorway, looking back. Get some rest, Zix. Tomorrow's going to be a long day. As Marcus lay in his narrow bed, listening to the continued patter of rain on the roof, he stared at the ceiling and wondered what he'd gotten himself into. The smart move would be to contact the authorities in the morning, let them handle it. A young Dracovian on the station was someone else's problem, someone more qualified and certainly younger. But then he remembered Threxus, standing over his broken body in the wreckage of their transport ship, refusing to leave him behind even when the enemy was closing in. He remembered the Dracovian commander's words, spoken in perfect Terran standard, despite the blood running down his scales. We do not abandon those who fight beside us, human. This is the way of honor. Marcus closed his eyes. Maybe he was too old for this. Maybe he'd regret it. But some debts transcended species, politics, and common sense. Tomorrow, he'd figure out what Zix was running from and whether there was anything an old soldier could do about it. For tonight, at least one broken thing was safe, warm, and beginning to heal. In its own small way, that felt like enough. Marcus woke before dawn, an old military habit that decades of civilian life hadn't managed to break. He dressed quietly and moved into the shop, half expecting to find the space empty, the Dragonling having fled during the night. Instead, he found Zix exactly where he'd left the creature, curled up on the work table with its tail wrapped around its body. The young Dracovian's sleep was fitful, small whimpers escaping occasionally, and Marcus noticed the way its claws flexed and retracted against the metal surface. Nightmares, most likely. He knew something about those. Rather than wake the youngster, Marcus set about his morning routine. He brewed coffee, checked his message terminal for any new repair requests, and began organizing his workspace. The burned spot on the ceiling from yesterday's panic blast would need repair, but that could wait. He'd seen far worse damage in his time. 40 minutes later, Zix stirred. The golden eyes opened slowly, scanning the room with immediate alertness, before focusing on Marcus. The transformation from sleep to wakefulness was instant and complete, another trait of a species evolved for survival. "Morning," Marcus said without looking up from the power converter he was disassembling. "How's the shoulder?" Zix stretched carefully, testing the injured wing. "Better. The burning has stopped." "Good. Infection was my main concern." Marcus set down his tools and moved to a small refrigeration unit. "I've got some fresh protein bars here. Not exactly traditional Dracovian cuisine, but they'll keep you going. Come down from that table and eat like a civilized being." For a moment, he thought Zix might refuse, pride warring with hunger in those expressive eyes. Then the Dragonling hopped down, moving with a grace that surprised Marcus despite the injuries. Dracovians were natural athletes, their bodies designed for both aerial and ground combat. They ate in silence, Marcus at his workbench and Zix standing near the doorway, constantly watching for threats. The behavior troubled Marcus. That kind of hypervigilance came from experience, from having been hurt enough times to never fully relax. No child should carry that weight. "So," Marcus said finally, washing down the last of his protein bar with coffee, "we need to talk about what happens next. You're already looking better than yesterday, which means soon you'll be strong enough to move around the station. When that happens, someone's going to notice a young Dracovian wandering my neighborhood. Questions will be asked." Zix's expression hardened, scales seeming to darken slightly. "I will leave. You have done enough." "That wasn't what I said," Marcus replied calmly. "I said we need a plan. Running blind is what got you bleeding in my alley. We're going to be smarter this time." "You do not understand." Zix's voice carried an edge now, frustration bleeding through. "I cannot go back. They will make me go back, and I cannot." "Cannot or will not?" "Both." The Dragonling's claws scraped against the floor. "The Dracovian way is strength. Honor through combat. Glory through conquest. But the words caught, as if the admission cost something. "I am not a warrior." Marcus set down his coffee cup and gave Zix his full attention. This was the heart of it then. In a culture that prized martial prowess above all else, what happened to those who couldn't or wouldn't fight? "Tell me," Marcus said simply. The story came haltingly at first, then in a rush. Zix was from the Astral clan, as Marcus had guessed, but not from the warrior caste. The Dragonling's clutch mother was a scholar, a researcher studying ancient technologies. Zix had inherited that analytical mind, that curiosity about how things worked rather than how to destroy them. In Dracovian culture, that was worse than being weak. It was being useless. The trials, Zix explained, voice tight with remembered fear. When we reach the age of 9 cycles, we undergo the trials, combat tests, hunting challenges, demonstrations of strength and ferocity. Those who pass are welcomed into the warrior clans. Those who fail. What happens to those who fail? Marcus asked quietly. Service caste, labor, permanent dishonor. Zix's tail lashed. My clutch mother tried to prepare me, spent every free moment training me to fight. But I am not built for it. Too small, too slow. My fire is weak. During practice bouts, I lost every match, every single one. So you ran, Marcus concluded. I fled, Zix corrected, the distinction apparently important. 3 weeks before the trials, I stowed away on a merchant vessel, then another, then ended up here. I have been hiding for 17 days, stealing food, avoiding security. Then yesterday, I tried to take supplies from the wrong area. The station guards found me. I ran, got hurt jumping between levels, and ended up in your alley. Marcus absorbed this, his mind already working through the implications. A Dracovian child, underage by their own laws, fleeing mandatory cultural trials. The embassy would absolutely want Zix returned. Station security would cooperate. And if Zix was caught and sent back, the youngster would face not just the shame of failure, but the added dishonor of desertion. Your clutch mother, Marcus said. Does she know where you are? Zix's head drooped. I left her a message. Told her I could not bring shame to her name by failing. Better to disappear than to be known as her failure. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard, Marcus said bluntly, and Zix's head snapped up in shock. You think disappearing, making her wonder if you're dead in some alley, is better than failing some arbitrary test? Kid, that's not protecting her honor. That's pure selfishness wrapped in noble-sounding excuses. The Dragonling's eyes flashed with anger. You do not understand Dracovian honor. No, Marcus agreed, but I understand fear, and I understand running from things that scare us. You want to know what I think? I think you're terrified of disappointing her, so you ran before she could see you fail. But you know what takes more courage than running? Staying, facing the consequences, failing with dignity instead of hiding in shame. Zix trembled, rage and anguish warring across the young face. What would you have me do? Return? Face the trials I cannot pass? Become a servant for the rest of my life? No, Marcus said firmly. I'd have you stop thinking like a Dracovian and start thinking like a survivor. Your people value strength, right? Physical combat? But strength comes in many forms. You said you're analytical, good with technology. That's a different kind of strength, one your culture doesn't recognize, doesn't make it less real. He stood up, moving closer to the Dragonling. Zix tensed but didn't retreat, which Marcus took as a good sign. Here's what I learned in 73 years of living, kid. Every culture, every species has blind spots. Things they value that maybe aren't as important as they think, and things they dismiss that actually matter. The Dracovians are incredible warriors, yeah. But you know what wins wars? Logistics, strategy, technology. The smart people behind the scenes making sure the warriors have weapons that work and ships that fly. Marcus tapped his temple. Commander Threxus taught me that. He said the greatest warriors know when not to fight. Maybe your people have forgotten that lesson. Or maybe they never learned it in the first place. Zix's anger was fading, replaced by something more vulnerable. So what do? I cannot change Dracovian culture. I cannot make them value what I am instead of what I am not. No, Marcus agreed. But you can change yourself. Not what you are, but how you see it. And you can learn to survive in a galaxy that doesn't care about Dracovian cultural expectations. He moved back to his workbench, pulling out a damaged navigation computer. You said you're good with technology. Prove it. This nav computer came from a scrapped transport. I need to extract the core memory without corrupting the data. Show me what you can do. Zix approached cautiously, studying the device. Marcus watched as the Dragonling's demeanor shifted, fear and shame giving way to focused curiosity. Those clever fingers, designed for gripping weapons, instead carefully traced circuits and connections. The core is magnetically locked, Zix murmured more to itself than to Marcus. Direct extraction will wipe it. But if we reroute the power flow through the secondary junction, create a bypass. Go ahead, Marcus encouraged. Tools are on the bench. Show me. What followed fascinated Marcus. Zix worked with surprising confidence, selecting tools and working with a precision that belied the youngster's age. The Dragonling's earlier nervousness evaporated, replaced by the focused intensity of someone in their element. This wasn't a failed warrior, this was a natural engineer. 30 minutes later, Zix held up the extracted core, intact and functional. Done! The data is preserved. Marcus took the core, checking it with his scanner. Perfect extraction, better than he could have managed himself. That's good work. Really good work. How'd you learn this? My clutch mother's research facility. I spent cycles there while she worked. The technicians taught me things. They said I had a gift for understanding systems. Zix's voice carried a wistfulness. They were not warriors, so their praise meant nothing to the clan elders. Their praise meant something to you, though, Marcus observed, and it should. This kind of skill, it's rare. Not everyone can look at a machine and understand its language. For the first time since arriving, Zix's scales brightened slightly, the physical manifestation of emotional state that Dracovians couldn't fully control. The youngster was pleased, Marcus realized, genuinely pleased to be acknowledged for something other than combat prowess. An idea was forming in Marcus's mind, risky, but potentially viable. Listen, Zix, I can't send you back to your people if you don't want to go. I won't, but you can't hide on this station indefinitely either. So here's what I'm proposing. You stay here, work with me in the shop. I teach you everything I know about repair work. You help me with the jobs that need smaller hands or sharper eyes. In exchange, you get room, board, and legitimate cover as my apprentice. Zix stared at him. You would do this? Risk harboring a fugitive? Fugitive is a strong word. You're a kid who doesn't want to go home. Lots of kids leave home. Marcus smiled slightly. Though I will need to contact your clutch mother. Let her know you're alive and safe. That's non-negotiable. She's probably going through hell right now. The Dragonling's expression turned anguished. She will tell the clan elders. They will come for me. Maybe, or maybe she'll understand better than you think. But either way, she deserves to know you're not dead in a gutter somewhere. Marcus's voice softened. Trust me on this, kid. I've lost people. The not knowing is worse than any truth. Zix was silent for a long moment, clearly torn. Finally, the Dragonling nodded. You may contact her, but if they come, I will run again. Fair enough, Marcus said, though he had no intention of letting it come to that. Now, let me teach you the first real lesson. Discipline. Not the warrior kind, but the kind that matters when you're trying to build something instead of destroy it. Over the following hours, Marcus introduced Zix to the real work of running a repair shop. It wasn't glamorous or exciting. It was methodical, careful, and often tedious. Every tool had its place. Every job had a proper sequence. Every finished piece had to be tested, retested, and tested again. Zix struggled at first, impatience and frustration warring with curiosity. The Dragonling wanted to jump ahead, to see results immediately. Marcus corrected course repeatedly, his patience born from decades of training soldiers who thought they knew better. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast, Marcus repeated whenever Zix rushed. You want to work quickly? Master working correctly first. Speed comes with practice. Accuracy comes with discipline. By evening, Zix was exhausted, but determined. The Dragonling had successfully repaired 3 different devices under Marcus's supervision, each one taking longer than the youngster wanted, but producing better results than rushed work ever could. As they cleaned up the workspace, Marcus noticed the change in Zix's posture. The constant defensive tension had eased. The youngster moved around the shop with more confidence, no longer treating every shadow as a threat. "Tomorrow," Marcus said as they finished, "we start proper training, not just repair work, life skills, how to move through the station without drawing attention, how to handle station security if they question you, how to blend in." "Why?" Zix asked. "Why help me learn these things?" Marcus considered the question seriously. Because running isn't living, and surviving isn't the same as thriving. If you're going to make it in this galaxy on your own terms instead of your culture's terms, you need skills. Real, practical skills that'll keep you safe and fed and useful. He met Zix's golden eyes directly. "Your people value warriors. Fine, but the galaxy needs more than warriors. It needs people who can build, repair, create, people who solve problems without violence. Maybe you're not a traditional Dracovian success story, but that doesn't mean you're a failure. It just means you're something different, something the galaxy actually needs more of." Zix's scales shimmered, that telltale sign of emotional response. "You believe that?" "I've seen more of the galaxy than most people, kid. Fought in more wars than I care to remember. You know what I learned? Wars are won by warriors, sure. But peace is built by everyone else. The engineers, the technicians, the thinkers, the people who fix what breaks and build what's needed." Marcus smiled. "Your clutch mother is a scholar. That makes her more valuable than 100 warriors in the long run. Same goes for you." That night, as Marcus composed a careful message to Zix's clutch mother, he felt something he hadn't experienced in years. Purpose. Not the grand, sweeping purpose of military service or defending humanity. Something quieter, but no less real. The purpose of helping one lost youngster find a path forward. The message was brief and carefully worded. He introduced himself, explained that Zix was safe and under his protection, and requested a private conversation about the youngster's future. He didn't mention the trials or Zix's fears, not yet. That conversation needed to happen in real time, where nuance and tone could prevent misunderstanding. As he sent the message, Marcus heard movement from the shop floor. Zix was still awake, sitting at the workbench with one of the broken devices, studying it in the dim light. The Dragonling wasn't working on it, just examining it with that intense focus Marcus was beginning to recognize. He left the youngster alone, understanding the need for quiet contemplation. Some lessons couldn't be taught. They had to be discovered, processed, and accepted in solitude. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. The clutch mother's response, whenever it came, might change everything. Station security might come asking questions. The Dracovian embassy might learn of Zix's presence. 1,000 complications could arise from harboring a runaway alien child. But for tonight, in this small repair shop on a rundown space station, something worthwhile was happening. A broken thing was being carefully, patiently, properly repaired. Not with hasty fixes or temporary solutions, but with the kind of attention and discipline that created lasting change. Marcus had spent 20 years fixing machines. Maybe, just maybe, he could apply those same principles to fixing a life. Not by making Zix into something the youngster wasn't, but by teaching the Dragonling to value what they already were. It was going to be hard work, probably frustrating, definitely complicated. But as Marcus finally settled into sleep, he found himself looking forward to it. After decades of simply existing, going through the motions of daily life, he finally had a reason to try harder. Tomorrow, the real work would begin. The response from Zix's clutch mother arrived 3 days later, during the morning rush when Marcus was elbow-deep in a malfunctioning reactor core assembly. The message alert chimed, and he saw Zix freeze at the workbench, scales rippling with anxiety. "Want me to read it first?" Marcus offered, wiping his hands clean. Zix shook its head slowly. "No, I should face this." They opened the message together on Marcus's terminal. The communication was audio-visual, and the Dracovian who appeared on screen made Marcus understand immediately where Zix got that analytical intensity. Silthera had the same golden eyes, the same purple-tinted scales, but hers carried the weight of years and wisdom. She wore the simple robes of a scholar rather than warrior armor, and her expression was carefully controlled. "Marcus Chen," she began in flawless galactic common, "I received your message regarding my offspring. I cannot adequately express my relief at learning Zix's lives. For 20 days I have wondered if my child was dead, suffering, or lost beyond recovery." Beside Marcus, Zix made a small sound of distress. The clutch mother's eyes seemed to focus directly on the youngster through the recording. "Zix, if you are hearing this, know that I am not angry. I am not disappointed. I am terrified for you, and I am grateful to this human for his kindness." She paused, gathering herself. "I know why you ran. I know the fear that drove you. And I know that I failed you by not fighting harder against traditions that would destroy what makes you special." The admission hung in the air. Marcus felt Zix trembling beside him. "The trials are in 7 days," Silthera continued. "The clan elders expect your return. They have declared you a fugitive, which brings dishonor to our house. But Zix, hear me now. I would bear every dishonor, every shame, rather than lose you. If you choose to return and face the trials, I will stand beside you regardless of outcome. If you choose to remain away, I will find a way to protect you from clan law. But please speak with me. Let me hear your voice and know you are truly safe." The message ended with contact information for a secure channel. Marcus and Zix stood in silence for several moments, the only sound the gentle hum of machinery. "She means it," Zix whispered finally. "She would stand against the clan for me." "Of course she would," Marcus replied. "She's your mother. That bond goes deeper than cultural expectations." He pulled up a chair, gesturing for Zix to sit. "But we need to talk about options. Really talk about them. Not running blind, but thinking through consequences." Over the next hour, they mapped out 3 possible paths. Each had risks and rewards, and Marcus made sure Zix understood them fully. The discipline he'd been teaching extended beyond repair work. It meant thinking through problems systematically, considering all angles before committing to action. Option 1 was return to the Dracovian clan and face the trials. Almost certain failure, followed by assignment to service caste. Permanent dishonor by Dracovian standards, but at least legitimate existence within their society. Silthera would support Zix, but couldn't prevent the consequences of cultural law. Option 2 was remaining on Station Terminus 7 as Marcus's apprentice. This required navigating complex legal issues. Dracovian law considered Zix a minor and required clan custody. Human law recognized alien cultural autonomy, but also had provisions for refugee status. Marcus would need to file specific paperwork, and there was no guarantee of approval. If denied, Zix would be deported back to the clan. Option 3 was finding a third path entirely. Leaving Dracovian space, seeking asylum in a neutral system, starting completely fresh somewhere neither Dracovian tradition nor human bureaucracy could reach. The most freedom, but also the most isolation. "What would you do?" Zix asked finally. "If you were me?" Marcus leaned back, considering carefully. "When I was young, I ran from things too. Ran from a family that wanted me to be someone I wasn't. Joined the military partly to escape, partly to prove something. Spent decades fighting wars, losing friends, collecting scars. And you know what I learned? Running doesn't solve problems. It just changes their location." He met Zix's eyes. "But I also learned that sometimes Standing your ground in the wrong place is stupider than running. If your entire culture is built on values that will destroy who you are, maybe running isn't cowardice. Maybe it's survival instinct. The key is knowing the difference. So which is this? Zix pressed. That's something only you can answer, but I'll tell you what I see. I see a youngster with rare skills being told those skills are worthless. I see a culture so focused on one definition of strength that they're throwing away potential brilliance. That's not honor. That's waste. Marcus stood, pacing slowly. Your clutch mother recognized it. That's why she tried so hard to prepare you for trials she knew you'd fail. She was trying to protect you from a system she couldn't change. But here's what she probably didn't realize. She doesn't need to change the system. You just need to step outside it. Option 2, Zix said quietly. Stay here. Work with you. It won't be easy, Marcus warned. We'll need to convince station authorities. File refugee claims, prove you have legitimate reasons to stay. The Dracovian embassy will fight it. Your people don't like losing clan members, especially young ones. It'll be bureaucratic hell. But it is possible? Possible, yes. Guaranteed, no. Marcus returned to his seat. But there's something else to consider. If we go this route, it can't be half-hearted. You'll need to truly commit to building a life here. Learning not just repair work, but everything about surviving in mixed-species society. Following rules, building reputation, proving your worth to people who might not trust you because of your species. I can do that, Zix said with surprising firmness. I have been surviving alone for weeks. I can survive with help and purpose. Marcus smiled. Then we'd better call your clutch mother. She deserves to be part of this conversation. The call took several minutes to establish, routed through multiple secure channels. When Silthara's face appeared on screen live this time, her relief was palpable. She spoke rapidly in the Dracovian language, words tumbling over each other. Zix responded in kind, and Marcus watched the reunion with quiet satisfaction. After the initial rush of emotion settled, they switched to Galactic Common for Marcus's benefit. Silthara's assessment of the situation was sharp and practical, exactly what Marcus had hoped for from a research scholar. The clan elders are furious, she explained, not just at Zix's flight, but at my failure to produce a warrior. They are considering stripping my research credentials, reassigning me to administrative duties. The dishonor affects our entire line. Forgive my bluntness, Marcus interjected, but that sounds like their problem, not yours. Your research has value regardless of what some warriors think about your offspring's career path. Silthara's laugh was bitter. You think in human terms, Marcus Chen. In Dracovian society, everything connects to clan honor. My work is valued only because my line produces warriors. Without that balance, I become expendable. Then come here, Marcus said simply. Both of you, I'm serious. Station Terminus 7 isn't glamorous, but we have a research facility. Not cutting edge, but functional. They're always looking for scientists, especially ones with experience in ancient technologies. You could continue your work without clan oversight. The suggestion clearly shocked both Dracovians. Silthara's scales rippled through several colors before settling back to their usual purple. You would sponsor us both? She asked carefully. Take responsibility for 2 Dracovian refugees? Why not? I've already got 1 Dragonling learning repair work. Might as well make it a family business. Marcus kept his tone light, but he was serious. The more he considered it, the more sense it made. Look, I'm old. I've got maybe 10, 15 good years left if I'm lucky. This shop will outlive me, but I've got no one to pass it to. Zix has talent for the work. You've got research skills that could attract better clients. We could build something here. The clan would never accept it, Silthara said, though Marcus could hear the longing in her voice. We would be declared exile, cut off from all Dracovian society. Zix would never be able to return home. "Home is the place that wants you there," Marcus replied. "If your clan is willing to throw away a brilliant youngster and a talented scholar because you don't fit their narrow definition of value, then maybe they're not worth going home to." Zix had been silent during this exchange, but now spoke up. "Clutch, Mother, I am sorry for the dishonor I have brought, but I cannot be what they demand. I have tried. I have trained until my scales bled and my fire burned my own throat. I am not a warrior, and pretending otherwise will not change that truth." "I know, my child." Silthara's voice was gentle. "I have always known. I hoped that perhaps determination could overcome natural inclination. But that was foolish. You are exactly what you should be. It is our culture that is flawed, not you." "Then come here," Zix urged. "Marcus is teaching me things, real things, how to fix what is broken, how to build what is needed, how to find value in work that matters even if it is not glorious. Please, Clutch Mother, we can have a life here, a different life, but a real one." The decision hung in the balance. Marcus could see Silthara weighing everything. Clan loyalty against maternal love, cultural tradition against personal freedom, the known path against an uncertain future. Finally, she straightened, and Marcus recognized the body language of a decision made. "I will need time to arrange things. Close my research projects properly, secure my personal data, liquidate assets without alerting the clan elders. 2 weeks, perhaps 3. Can you keep Zix safe that long, Marcus Chen?" "Count on it," Marcus assured her. "We'll start the refugee paperwork immediately. Build a case for asylum based on cultural persecution. Won't be easy, but I know people in the station administration. Old favors owed. We'll make it work." After the call ended, Marcus and Zix sat in comfortable silence for a few moments. Then the youngster spoke, voice carrying a weight of emotion. "Thank you for everything, for not sending me back, for calling her, for offering us both a chance." "Thank me by learning well," Marcus replied, "and by proving to everyone that warriors aren't the only measure of worth. Now come on, we've got work to do. That reactor core isn't going to fix itself." The following days fell into a rhythm. Mornings were dedicated to repair work, Marcus teaching Zix the intricacies of different systems and technologies. The Dragonling absorbed information like a sponge, that natural analytical ability combining with genuine passion for the work. Afternoons were spent on what Marcus called practical survival skills: how to navigate station bureaucracy, how to interact with different species diplomatically, how to handle conflicts without resorting to violence. Marcus also taught discipline in its truest form. Not the harsh, punishing discipline of military training, but the quiet discipline of craftsmanship, taking pride in work done well, accepting mistakes as learning opportunities rather than failures, understanding that mastery came through consistent effort over time, not sudden breakthrough. Zix struggled with some lessons more than others. The youngster's Dracovian instincts sometimes clashed with the patient approach Marcus advocated. When frustrated, Zix wanted to smash things or breathe fire. Marcus would calmly redirect that energy into productive channels, teaching the Dragonling to transmute anger into focused determination. "Your fire isn't weak," Marcus explained one afternoon when Zix had incinerated a piece of scrap metal in frustration. "You're just using it wrong. Fire destroys, yes, but it also forges, tempers steel, provides heat for welding. Your people think of fire as a weapon. Try thinking of it as a tool." The perspective shift clearly affected Zix. The youngster began experimenting with controlled flame, using it for precision heating during delicate repairs. What Dracovian culture had dismissed as pathetic firepower became a valuable asset in skilled hands. Station security did eventually come asking questions. Marcus had prepared for this. Ensuring all his paperwork was impeccable, he presented Zix as an apprentice under temporary work visa, claimed to be coordinating with the Dracovian embassy on proper custody arrangements. The lies were smooth, practiced, and bureaucratically boring enough that the security officers accepted them without deep investigation. The real challenge came 12 days after that first conversation with Silthera. The Dracovian embassy sent an official representative, a warrior caste enforcer named Draxus. He arrived at Marcus's shop in full armor, scales gleaming black and gold, representing everything Zix had fled from. Marcus met him at the door, deliberately casual in his grease-stained work clothes. He'd faced down enemies far more intimidating than one self-important warrior. "Marcus Chen?" Draxus's voice carried the arrogance of someone used to obedience. "I am here to collect the fugitive Zix, child of Silthera, who has brought dishonor upon the Astral clan." "Zix is under my protection as a registered apprentice," Marcus replied calmly. "All proper documentation has been filed with station authorities. Dracovian law supersedes your human bureaucracy. The child belongs to the clan." "The child is a sentient being with rights under Galactic Accord," Marcus countered. "Article 7 specifically addresses cases of cultural persecution. Zix has filed for refugee status based on fundamental disagreement with Dracovian cultural practices that threaten the youngster's well-being." Draxus's eyes narrowed. "You presume to judge our culture, human?" "I presume to protect someone who asked for help." "Big difference." Marcus didn't step aside. "Look, I get it. Your culture values warriors. Great. But last time I checked, the Galactic Accord protects individuals from forced participation in cultural practices they fundamentally object to. Zix doesn't want to be a warrior. That's not a crime. It is cowardice. It's a choice, something your culture apparently doesn't believe in." The confrontation could have escalated, but Zix emerged from the shop at that moment. The youngster had been working on a delicate sensor array and still held a soldering tool. Seeing Draxus, Zix's scales rippled with fear, but the Dragonling stood firm. "I am not returning," Zix stated clearly. "I reject the trials. I reject the warrior path. I claim right of self-determination under galactic law." Draxus studied Zix with undisguised contempt. "You shame your clutch mother. You shame your clan. You shame every Dracovian who fought to build our empire. I shame only those who are so narrow-minded they cannot see value beyond violence," Zix shot back, and Marcus felt a surge of pride at the youngster's courage. "My clutch mother is a brilliant scholar whose research advances our understanding of ancient civilizations, but you and your warrior caste dismiss her because she doesn't kill people. That shame belongs to you, not to us." The statement clearly struck a nerve. Draxus's scales darkened, a sign of rising anger. His hand moved toward the blade at his side, and Marcus tensed, ready to intervene. But Zix didn't flinch, didn't retreat. The youngster stood ground, meeting the warrior's glare with steady determination. "If you draw that weapon on station grounds, you'll be arrested," Marcus said quietly. "And if you try to take Zix by force, you'll have to go through me first. I don't care how many wars your people have won. I've survived plenty of my own." The standoff held for several tense seconds. Then Draxus stepped back, his expression cold. "The clan will not forget this insult. You will both be declared exile. Any Dracovian who assists you will face the same sentence." "We accept those terms," Zix said firmly. "Tell the clan elders that Silthera and I choose freedom over honor, growth over stagnation, and possibilities over traditions." After Draxus left, Marcus made sure to lock the shop and activate security measures. The warrior had retreated, but that didn't mean the threat was over. Dracovians were patient when seeking vengeance. "That was either very brave or very stupid," Marcus told Zix. "Not sure which yet." "You taught me to stand my ground when it matters," Zix replied. "This matters." "Fair point." That evening, as they worked on repairing a complex communications relay, Marcus noticed how much Zix had changed in less than 3 weeks. The frightened, injured creature he'd found in his alley had transformed into something more confident, more assured. Not a warrior, but not a victim either. Something different entirely. Marcus, Zix said while carefully soldering a connection. What did Commander Threxus do after the war ended, after there were no more battles to fight? Marcus smiled at the question. He became an ambassador, used his understanding of conflict to prevent future ones, said he'd spent enough of his life destroying. Wanted to spend the rest building. Do you think he would approve of what we are doing? Honestly, I think he'd be proud as hell. Threxus understood something most warriors never figure out. True strength isn't about who you can defeat. It's about who you can protect, what you can create, how you can make things better than you found them. Marcus looked up from his work. You're doing that, Zix. Maybe not in the way your people expected, but in a way that matters. Silthara arrived 19 days after that first call, traveling under false documentation Marcus's contacts had arranged. She brought minimal possessions, mostly data storage containing her research. Station authorities, properly bribed and with paperwork in order, processed her as a research consultant for Marcus's business. The reunion between mother and child was emotional, both Dracovians embracing in the traditional manner of their people, tails entwining, foreheads pressed together. Marcus gave them privacy, busying himself with organizing inventory until they were ready. When they emerged, Silthara approached Marcus with formal dignity. Marcus Chen, you have shown my child and myself kindness beyond measure. In Dracovian tradition, such a debt demands repayment. I offer you my skills, my knowledge, and my loyalty for as long as you will have them. How about you offer me some help getting this shop organized properly instead, Marcus suggested. And maybe share some of that research expertise with potential clients. We could use the business. Silthara's scales brightened with amusement. You are an unusual human, Marcus Chen. Most would demand formal acknowledgement of debt. Most people are idiots about that kind of thing. I helped because it was right, not because I wanted something back. Though if you're offering to cook occasionally, I wouldn't say no. My culinary skills are limited to protein bars and coffee. Over the following weeks, the unusual household found its rhythm. Silthara secured a position at the station's research facility, her expertise in ancient technologies proving valuable. Her income supplemented the shop's revenue, allowing them to expand operations slightly. She did indeed cook, introducing Marcus and Zix to Dracovian cuisine that was surprisingly palatable to human tastes. Zix continued training under Marcus's guidance, growing more skilled with each passing day. The youngster's natural aptitude for technology, combined with disciplined practice, produced remarkable results. Word spread among station residents about the quality of repairs coming from Chen's shop, and business improved. But more importantly, Zix was happy. The constant fear and shame that had characterized the youngster's early days was replaced by genuine contentment. Zix had found purpose in work that utilized natural talents rather than fighting against inherent nature. 3 months after their arrival, Marcus received an unexpected communication from Commander Threxus himself. The old Dracovian warrior, now serving in diplomatic capacity, had heard rumors about a human harboring Dracovian exiles. Marcus Chen, Threxus's familiar voice rumbled through the speaker. I should have known you would find yourself in the middle of cultural controversy. You always did have a talent for complicating simple situations. Commander, Marcus couldn't help but grin. Been a long time. Indeed. I hear you have taken in young Zix and Scholar Silthara. The Astral clan is most displeased. They'll survive the disappointment. Threxus's laugh was a deep, resonant sound. I have no doubt. I wanted you to know that not all Dracovians agree with the clan's rigid traditions. There are those of us who believe our culture must evolve or risk stagnation. What you are doing, protecting those who choose different paths, it matters. It shows possibilities our people refuse to acknowledge. Just helping some folks who needed it, Marcus said modestly. You taught me once that humans have a saying. The only thing necessary for evil to flourish is for good men to do nothing. You are doing something, my friend. Never discount that. After the call ended, Marcus found Zix and Silthara in the shop. The youngster was teaching Silthara some repair techniques, the scholar proving surprisingly adept despite her lack of practical experience. Watching them work together, teaching and learning, growing beyond the limitations others had tried to impose, Marcus felt something profound. This was what he'd been looking for without knowing it. Not glory or recognition or even financial success. Just the quiet satisfaction of seeing broken things become whole. Whether those things were machines or lives didn't really matter. "Hey, Zix," Marcus called out. "Remember that first day when you were bleeding in my alley, convinced you were worthless because you couldn't fight?" Zix looked up, scales shimmering with curiosity. "Yes. Look at you now, teaching your clutch mother advanced repair techniques, building a reputation as a skilled technician, carving out a life on your own terms. Still think you're worthless?" The youngster's expression softened. "No, I think I was measuring myself against the wrong standards." "Exactly. That's the real lesson. True discipline isn't about forcing yourself to be someone you're not. It's about having the strength to be exactly who you are, even when everyone tells you it's wrong." Marcus returned to his workbench, picking up a damaged power coupling. "Now come on, both of you. We've got 7 more repairs to finish before closing, and Mrs. Kelvin wants her environmental controls fixed by tomorrow, or she's threatening to leave bad reviews on the station network." As the 3 of them worked together, the small shop filled with the comfortable sounds of productivity. Tools clicking, components humming, occasional bursts of Dracovian conversation mixed with Marcus's gruff instructions. Outside, Station Terminus 7 continued its endless rotation, a small point of civilization in the vast darkness of space. Ships came and went, species mixed and mingled. The galaxy turned with its usual chaotic indifference to individual stories. But in one modest repair shop, something meaningful was being built. Not a business empire or a political movement or anything that would make history books. Just a family, unconventional and cobbled together from broken pieces, but family nonetheless. A grizzled human veteran, a Dracovian scholar, and a youngster learning that strength came in many forms. Marcus had spent decades believing his best years were behind him, that he had nothing left to offer beyond basic survival and day-to-day existence. He'd been wrong. His greatest contribution wasn't the battles he'd won or the medals he'd earned. It was this: giving 2 people a chance to become something their own culture had told them was impossible. That evening, as they locked up the shop, Zix paused at the door. "Marcus, do you ever regret taking me in? It has complicated your life considerably." Marcus looked at the youngster, then at Silthara, then back at the cluttered but thriving workspace they'd built together. He thought about the quiet loneliness of his previous existence. The empty years of simply going through motions. "Kid," he said with absolute sincerity, "taking you in is probably the smartest thing I've done in 30 years. Now come on. Your mother promised to make that spiced meat dish tonight, and I'm not eating alone again." As they headed toward the living quarters, Zix's tail swished with contentment, and Silthara hummed a traditional Dracovian melody. Marcus followed behind, his old joints aching as always, but his spirits lighter than they'd been in decades. Sometimes the most important battles weren't fought with weapons or won through violence. Sometimes they were won by simply standing firm and refusing to let injustice define someone's worth. By teaching discipline not through punishment, but through patience. By showing that broken things, whether machines or lives, deserve the care and attention necessary to make them whole. In the end, that was the truest form of strength. Not the power to destroy, but the courage to build. Not the ability to defeat enemies, but the wisdom to recognize that some things were worth protecting even when the rest of the galaxy didn't understand why. Marcus Chen, veteran of countless battles and survivor of too many wars, had finally found his final mission, and he intended to see it through to the end, one repaired circuit and one rescued life at a time.